So hi and welcome back to Mountain Boys. For those of you that saw me struggle through tying an Adams Irresistible, which obviously I'm not a fan of tying because I'm not super good at it, I'm going to show you how I prefer to tie the Adams, and it's a lot easier. I think it fishes almost as well, and it just is a lot less frustration, especially for, the beginning, intermediate tire. I'm an expert by no means, and I'll reserve that title to my dad and uncle, mostly my uncle. So again, I'm starting out with 6X, or excuse me, what is this, 6/0 gray thread. I'm going to start about halfway down the shank of the hook, and I'm going to lay in my thread wrap to the bend. For the tail, I'm going to use the same fibers that I used before on the Irresistible. And I liked these dark brown, almost black fibers that I used before on the last fly. I thought they were really good. So I'm going to go ahead and use them again. And I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to how I tie them in this time. Go ahead and snip them off. Knock all my stuff over. I know I want the tail to be about the same length as the hook going backwards like that. So I'm going to move them forward ever so slightly. Of that, I'm going to point them towards the front. Choke up on my thread a little bit here. I'm going to give them a loose wrap and cinch up on the back there, like that. There we go. Give them one more wrap to secure. Oh, I lost some fibers. Yeah, that'll be all right. I grabbed enough, I think. So I'm going to trim off the back end right there. Give it one more wrap. And I'm going to loop those, flip them over to the back and tie them in so that the tail now is super secure. So let's zoom in a little bit. You can see that there. So now there's no way for that tail to get tugged out. I had too much on my mind on the last fly, and I forgot to do it that way. So now I'm ready to tie in the abdomen. And for this, I'm going to go to my dubbing here. Zoom out. And would you look at that? There's actually a dubbing called Adams Gray for the color. So that's what we're going to go with. I'm going to get a bundle of it here, give myself some thread, and I'm going to start wrapping it around in one direction and just twisting that onto the thread. And work my way down. So there we go. It's secured on there. And I'm just going to tease it up to the top here. And I'm going to start wrapping in the abdomen. And I might need to refresh my dubbing on here once or twice because I want to build up some pretty good material here. So I'm going to wrap in. Wrap back a little bit. That's looking pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to tie in a little bit more. Maybe not quite as much as I used the first time. I'm going to go ahead and twist that onto my thread there. Run it up. Give it another good twist at the top. That's looking pretty good. And lay in some more. So there we go. There's our abdomen. It's got a nice taper towards the back, getting bigger. There as we go to the front. Now I'm going to thread wrap to just behind the eye. Back it off a little bit. It's about 1/3 of the way up between where my dubbing ended and the eye of the hook. That's where I'm going to stop my thread here, and I'm going to tie in some post. And I had a piece of post that I cut off from the last fly, and I don't know where I set it, so I'll just grab another piece. So again, I'm using the synthetic post material here. This is really good for tying parachutes with. Really, really good. Or if you need to give any kind of like indicator on the top of another dry fly, like maybe like a hopper or something like that that you'd done with hair, or even with, a hopper, a simulator, anything like that. This post material works really well if your eyes have trouble seeing your fly on the water. I don't really like to use like pink or purple material for that. I think that's just going a little bit too far, but the white is pretty handy. So I'll kind of figure out how much I'm going to need again and kind of snip it off more or less to size. I'll trim it up a little bit in a little while anyway. I'm going to kind of twist it, keep it together here, and I'm going to tie it on at about the halfway point there. So loose wrap, cinch it up, a couple wraps. Now I'm going to twist it, and I'm going to come around like that. The goal here, get around it, is to keep that post divided and to get them to go pretty much perpendicular to the shaft of the hook. Like that. Behind, like that. And once you've got them to this point, well, hey, that kind of looks like you're tying a spinner pattern there. But no, I'm actually, going to start wrapping to make two separate posts here for the wings. And this can be a little tricky. You kind of have to let it loose and then give it a tight wrap where you want, because you don't have three hands to work with. It might help to switch to your left hand with your bobbin, like I just did. Feed it around. So there we go. Left side's done. I'm going to come in on the right side, do the same thing. Apparently switching hands with the bobbin is the easy way to do this. That's a much easier way to do this. I have to remember that. So there's your pro tip. Use your left hand for your bobbin. And it makes tying in your wing posts a lot easier. I got a little stray there. We'll just put you back to where you need to be. Now come in behind like this, because you kind of want them to flare a little bit forward, and give it some thread wraps back behind so you have plenty of room this time to tie in your front hackle with. So I'm pretty happy with that. I have a piece of brown and a piece of grizzly hackle, and this brown has kind of a black, really dark brown center base that I actually really liked on that last fly. I wasn't a fan of the tying the Irresistible in general, but I really liked the hackle color on it. So I'm going to strip out those ends. I'm going to orient the feathers so that they have the same curve, they're pointing the same way. So basically you've got top on top like that. Line them up together nicely. And set them right in between the posts there. Do 2 wraps on the back. I'm going to come forward to my post, hold them back, and I'm going to grab the front part of those hackle fibers, maybe. They're kind of short. There we go. Got them. So they're secured in, a couple wraps, and I have that where I want it. Now you could use hackle pliers for this, but when you've got 2 feathers, you'll find that might be a little more than you bargained for, trying to keep 2 hackles in your hackle pliers. So what I would suggest is just grabbing them and completely losing one and having to rewrap an entire bit of fly. I should have stripped out more material there on the front. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to give myself a little bit more room to tie in from, maybe even more than I need, and I might have to trim off some excess here in a minute. That's okay. Here we go. Get them on the same orientation again. Line them up evenly. Set them between the posts. Give them 2 wraps behind the post. Now pull your post back and grab them on this side. Okay, that worked out almost perfectly now. So now I'm just going to wrap up. And we'll try this whole hackle wrap again. So just holding them together. Give them maybe 3 wraps behind your wing posts. And probably about 2 in front of it is all you need. About like that. Secured. Move my thread out of the way. And I'm going to come in a little point in my scissors there, and I'm just going to pop them. Not actually going to snip, just going to push the scissors forward a little bit and pull the hackles back until they pop. So this step I probably should have done before I even tied in the wing or the hackle, and that was to trim off my wings where I wanted. So I'll carefully do that now. And I'll kind of twist them together a little bit. Try not to get any hackle fiber in there. Give them a twist. Just like that. We had a couple strays. So those strays, I'm going to carefully trim them off, just like that. Okay, so you can see we still kind of crowded the eye of our hook a little bit, but it's definitely better than the tie I flied, the fly I tied the last time. So I'm going to bring all those hackle fibers back. This. Give it some wraps. You can see I still caught a few of those fibers on the front, and I'm going to have to do just... So we're back. Camera battery died. So all I did was just ever so gently manicure around the eye right there, because it got crowded again. And that's easy to do, especially when you're tying on a double hackle with a wing post. You get a lot of material built up there. So that's looking pretty good. Probably get that a little closer. I've said before, I really don't like having to do a manicure on my hackle fiber, but sometimes there's just no way around it. So there we go. That's done and ready to whip finish here, wherever my whip finisher went off to. You start tying a bunch and you get a bunch of materials on the table, and suddenly your tools can disappear on you a little bit. So there we go. I'm going to get my whip finisher on here. Try to not catch any more of those fibers in my wraps. And give it 6, 7 good wraps. Pull it tight. Come in with my V-notch again. Just push, pop that thread, and see if there's any more final manicure that needs to be done. And yep, 1, 2, 3, 4. Use my bodkin. Make sure the eye is clear, then we'll be able to get tippet through. Yep, that's fine. And just a small drop of clear nail polish there on the thread head, the whip finish head. And done. Give it a dry. Push our wing post back up. So there is a size 12 Adams tied with a synthetic wing post and a gray dubbing body. And there you go. So this fly is a lot easier to tie than the spun deer hair Irresistible. And unless the fish are going to be super picky and not want to touch this fly, I wouldn't mess around with tying the Irresistible. But you can. And that's about it. So I hope you like this kind of round 2 version that I did, and I will see you next time on Fly of the Week.